Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
Rainier Avenue Radio presents All Music, All Day Saturday. Music, all day Saturday.
This is Edward Bailey, Bulldog Blue.
Jazz from the Capitals.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Capitals.
Start time.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul. This is Start Time.
Saturdays, all music, all day. Reggae out, K-Pop's night.
Looking for the perfect beat? Yeah, it's the beat of the vibe.
Fresh juice, D-Money in the
Myself, D-Money.
Stevenson, the Northwest Rap Gang.
DJ Medina. Jackson. Northwest Rap Gang.
Sergio Lacour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio Lacour. Go to the phone lines. Hello,
Sea Monster Radio, Mojang. It's your
Welcome to Mojang Mondays. This is KZ Music Media. Holler Goddess for Mojang Mondays.
Just like God is inspiration all day and all night. Saturdays on Rainier Avenue Radio App.
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. Can count it 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. Can count it 206-477-3977. Public Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not cooking up a batch of my famous wood-flavored chicken, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I went over a friend's house to eat, and the food just ain't no good.
And then there were four. Mysterious. Hey, welcome back, everybody. LidLine Sports, your favorite radio show right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I am Pep, and my man O.
Daniel Mr. Q there.
Building, but he's here.
Daniel Mr. Q there.
I kind of switched it up on him. So you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, sir. Not the final four.
There were four.
Not the final.
Yes, 4 days until the weekend. No, I'm just kidding. No, so we're down to the final four in the NBA playoffs, right? Playoffs.
Yep.
Playoffs. That's right. We're talking about playoffs, not practice. Playoffs.
Yes, sir.
So both the West and the East are done as far as the second round. And so now we are in the final two in each conference. And so we have Boston and Indiana in the East and Dallas and Minnesota in the West. How did you like Game 7s yesterday?
I mean, Pep, there's nothing better in professional sports than those two words of Game 7. So it was already going to be a glorious Sunday. And for me, I didn't have a horse in the race, so it was just great to be able to sit down and enjoy those games and, just see two teams slug it out. Now, you had the Knicks game and the Indiana Pacers game to start out with that. It was unfortunate because we knew the Knicks were coming in hobbled. We knew OG Anunoby was coming back off a hamstring. You knew he wasn't going to be 100%. That lasted only 5 minutes. And then, of course, Josh Hart dealing with his abdominal situation. That's a 1 to 2 week injury I read about. So, You knew he wasn't going to be close to even 100%, and it showed. And then the final nail in the coffin was Jalen Brunson fracturing his hand in the third quarter, I believe. And that was all she wrote. I mean, the Knicks made a little slight push to keep it, somewhere respectable, but the Pacers pulled away. But I'm not taking anything from the Pacers because, Pep, when we started talking about the NBA come September, October, if you would have told me that the Pacers would even be sniffing the Eastern Conference Finals.
Hey, whoa, wait a minute. You didn't have Boston, Indiana, Minnesota, and Dallas on your bingo card?
Heck no.
Nobody did.
No, not even close. But you see the road, and, a lot of people are hearing about the road that the Pacers, took to get here, playing the hobbled Bucks with no Giannis, Damian Lillard missing some games, and then now playing the Knicks. Look, the rule is, and we all know, you play who's in front of you, especially when it comes to the playoffs. But I hate in the social media era, Pep, that you hear all these now excuses about what a team's road looked like to get to the finals or who they even played in the finals. And I hate that part of the social media. It's ridiculous. Like people act like this didn't happen before. Like it just started happening now in the internet era, that teams might have, got a little lucky of playing a team that may have been missing a player. It didn't just start happening, ladies and gentlemen. That is a part of the playoffs and the grueling road it takes to get here. Injuries are a part of the game. So I have nothing but flowers to give to the Indiana Pacers, unlike the Twitter trolls and all that. But I want to give a special shout out to Pascal Siakam. I was somebody who was a little hard on him after the Toronto Raptors could not bring back Kawhi. They didn't get back. I think they made it to the playoffs, but they kind of floated after that. And the question was, could Pascal be a number one option? And I was the first person that said, no, I don't see it. Thought maybe, that role he played next to Fred VanVleet and Kawhi was perfect for him. But this playoffs, not even just this series, he's proven that he can will a team. Now, of course, he has real help in Tyrese Halliburton, who has finally gotten back to that all-NBA player that he once was to begin for the half of the season. But in my opinion, Pascal Siakam has been the best player for the Indiana Pacers throughout this playoff. So I want to give a shout-out to him. And then on the other side, it's unfortunate for the Knicks. So we all love the road or that they took to get here. Jalen Brunson has become not just a fan favorite in the NBA, but a fan favorite or a fan favorite for the Knicks, but for the NBA as well. They're putting together a team. I do want to ask you, Pep, and I have my opinion on this. So we talked about OG getting hurt, Josh Hart getting hurt, Jalen Brunson, even though I feel like, that's just how his injury was, is just an accident. It happens. But with the abdominal strain and then the hamstring, what's the head coach's name? I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Rick Carlisle?
No, for the Knicks.
Oh, you mean Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah, Tom Thibodeau. So we know his approach to the game. Small rotation. His main guys are playing heavy minutes. And we're talking 40-plus minutes, and this is even in the regular season. Do you think Tom Thibodeau should somewhat adjust and maybe the Knicks, in the offseason, start to try to stretch that bench out so we can get those star players maybe down to the 35-minute range a night instead of playing 40-plus. Josh Hart played the whole game, I think, 4 times this playoffs. How do you feel about that?
Well, he had to because remember, they're missing Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was a key component in their season. And, of course, they didn't expect him to be out. But that's the nature of the beast in the NBA and in the NFL too. When you get to the playoffs, basically whoever is the healthiest is probably going to be the ones that are going to win, of course, and be consistent. But as far as what you're saying, as far as the minutes are concerned, the Knicks, I think, probably should get another player. They need another star. I don't know if they're going to move on from Randall or what the case is, or if they keep him. I still think they need another component, another piece.
Agree.
So if they do that, then of course those minutes will be adjusted for everybody. And then, I got to give a shout out to Dante DiVincenzo. He had 39 yesterday, so he played his heart out with basically no help other than, Burke had 26. But, look, I mentioned the bingo card before. Who had DiVincenzo getting 39 and Alex Burke being a key player in the playoffs because of injury? Nobody saw that one coming. But these guys are professional, and that's what I want to point out. A guy like Burks, right? He doesn't play much. He got very limited time in the first round against the Sixers, but when his name was called and against the Pacers, he came through, especially in games 3, 4, and 5. Of course, the last couple of games, the Indiana Pacers took over. But this is what professionalism is all about. Even though you're not playing, you're on the bench, you're still in tune, right? You're still paying attention. You're still ready to go. And he was. So kudos to him. But I'm going to tell you this, as far as on the Indiana side, kudos to Siakam and Halliburton. But you know who my MVP of that team is? You'll be, if you think about it.
My guess would be TJ McConnell.
Thank you.
Okay.
Exactly. Because without him, the Pacers do not win this series. The way he sparked off the bench, he was phenomenal. And I got a little trivia for you. TJ McConnell and a Seattle native were both rookies at the same time. Can you name that Seattle native? Yeah, I knew I'd get you.
I'm stumped.
Tony Roten.
Okay. I was trying to think of the age group easy, and then that sounds about right.
Yeah. Isn't that something? I mean, he's almost been a forgotten man, right? Because he's no longer in the NBA. And here's TJ McConnell, a kid out of Arizona. He played well for Arizona, and then he got in the NBA, and he's had to bide his time, come in here every now and then. But now he's really shown that, again, being a professional, being ready, and this is what happens. So kudos to him. Kudos to Alex Burke. And the Knicks, I think, will be fine.
Oh, yeah.
As long as they don't tweak too much, they don't have to overdo things. If they can get another component, fine. If they can't, then I think they can still work with what they have. What's disappointing as far as yesterday is concerned is Hartenstein gave them no points. So that was disappointing. But, look, nobody expected the Knicks to be this far in. And, of course, so kudos to them. So hopefully they'll be back. So they made the playoffs the last 2 straight years, knocked off by Miami last year, who went to the finals, and now knocked off by Indiana, who's in the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. And, of course, we'll discuss that in a few. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and even just continuing on that series, Pep, with the Knicks, they don't have hard choices to make. But in my opinion, they have to make the right choice though. And like when it comes to, do you want to make that big move of maybe Julius Randle's contract and picks and want to get a star, or do you want to make subtle picks? Now, knowing the Knicks, who they are, I know they've been dying to find the bright name, but I'll
give you a name that I would love to see in the New York Knicks uniform that I think would be perfect.
Okay.
Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah. I love that name. I love that fit there. He takes off offensive wear, being able to ball handle, play make for others that Jalen Brunson has to do. I think that's a great fit. And now with that being said, what would that take to get him? Does that mean we got to exhaust a lot of draft picks, Julius Randle's contract, maybe another piece to get him? But that is one of the very few names that I'm not necessarily willing to gut, but I'm willing to move off from Julius Randle and see, hopefully this makes us take the step in the right direction instead of a lateral moves or moving down. The Indiana Pacers, Pep, this was a team that was 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember. They were 2 years ago from almost kind of retooling. Remember, they offered DeAndre Ayton a really big max offer sheet 2 years ago.
Right.
And they were willing to move off of Miles Turner to keep DeAndre Ayton. I don't know why, but the Sun said no. I'm very mad about that as now you think about it. But it was a domino effect. They signed Miles Turner to an extension. They brought in Tyrese Halliburton, who they already had, but he has been the leader to this team. And then now going to make that extra aggressive move by going to get Pascal Siakam. They are in the right direction. That is still a young team. They don't have guys that are, I don't think, floating around that mid-30s. And Pascal Siakam is getting close to there, but he's still in the tip-top of his prime. Tyrese Halliburton hasn't hit the apex of his prime, and I think Miles Turner has another step up that he can take too. So now for the Pacers, they just keep continuing to find pieces as they move on. But right now, they got a daunting task in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. Pep, if you want to get into that.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
The Pacers have been playing really well over these last two series. They're going to play the team that is favored to win the NBA championship, and rightfully so, in the Boston Celtics. This is going to be, in my opinion, the Pacers have to continue to play their game. I don't think there should be much of trying to figure out how to necessarily slow down Boston. I think it's trying to how to speed them up, how to continue to get them to not be able to set up their defense, play the way that we play. I think that'll give the Pacers a shot. I can't really say right now. I got to maybe look at it, the series a little more. But that's what's going to give them a shot. Now, we talked about this last 2 weeks, Pep. I'm not impressed with Boston. This is why it's hard for me to keep – on paper, they should beat these guys in 4 or 5. But it's hard for me to say that on how they have played over these last 2 series. And it was kind of really eye-daunting to see how they played against the Cavaliers the last 2 games when they were without their best player, Donovan Mitchell. So it's I don't know what to say, what we're going to get from them. I know Jason Tatum woke up in that game 6 or game 5. Was it game 5 or 6?
5.
5
or 6. I don't know. One of them. I mean, it felt like 2 weeks ago. So, sorry.
I love what Jaylen Brown's been doing. Drew Holiday has been a no-show, and this is the guy who was supposed to be the difference maker. He has done nothing.
Well, he's got to show up here for defense.
Yes. Al Horford has been the unsung hero of this team. I'm loving what he's doing. And I think he's going to be the X factor in having to rim protect without Porzingis, also having to guard Miles Turner at the three-point line, making shots. I think he's going to be the guy that the Celtics will leave open, or that the Pacers will leave open. But it comes down to Jason Tatum and him having to wake up and him having to dominate. We can't keep throwing, a superstar tag and keep calling him a top possible 3 player or why he didn't win MVP if you're not going to show up when it matters consistently.
Right.
So that's my X factor, and it shouldn't be an X factor because he's the best player, but that's one of my X factors. And the Pacers, like I said, it's pushing the pace and playing the way. Tyrese Halliburton playing the way he's been playing the last 2 games. Pascal Siakam imposing his will and being aggressive. I don't think there's anybody over there that can guard him. Jason Tatum's going to have to guard him, so make him work. But I'm going to take the Celtics in 6.
Okay, that's solid. I like that. The Celtics, they're hard to figure out right now because, as you said, they are. They should be boat racing everybody, to be honest, especially in the East. So it shouldn't have a problem. But as we saw against that first series when they struggled in that one game and then they struggled in that one game against the Cavs.
Mhm.
But we did say that the Cavs might get one, and they did.
Mhm.
So, and the Pacers are better than the Cavs, right? So the Pacers should get one. So I'll go with you, and I'll give them two. But the Pacers are the highest scoring team in the league. They've almost got an ABA vibe to them. And like I mentioned before about TJ McConnell, I think he's going to be key in this series because Boston also has a key guy off the bench, and that's Peyton Pritchard. Whichever Pritchard and McConnell going at each other, whoever is more successful, that could be a telltale in this series. And it's kind of crazy to say that, but TJ McConnell has been a big spark for them. And his confidence is sky high. And a confident player is a scary player. So if he gets off early, Boston's going to have their hands full. I'm still going to say the Celtics in 6, but the Pacers can score, and that's a big thing in the playoffs too, right? Because in the playoffs usually things slow down, and it's tough to score. But the Pacers are still chugging along. They got 130 points in a Game 7 on the road yesterday
against the Knicks, against Tom Thibodeau. That's
yeah, exactly. So Boston better be ready to D up, right? So if the Celtics can D up, if Drew Holiday can lock down Halliburton, right, and Jason Tatum can handle somewhat Siakam, then they should be okay. Miles Turner, Al Horford is another problem, right? Because he can set outside and hit threes. That could be a problem for Indiana as well. So Indiana's definitely going to have to be on their A+ game if they're going to beat the Celtics, for sure.
And to piggyback even just off of TJ McConnell and that spark, I honestly believe out of these two teams, I think the whole playoffs, the Pacers have had the best bench, in my opinion, in the playoffs. They go 9-10 deep, and this is without Benedict Mathurin. So that's also going to be an X factor, is who can win the bench points, who can win the minutes when the stars are sitting down. The Pacers have more pieces, in my opinion, than the Celtics do coming off the bench. So that will also make things really interesting in how far the Pacers can push the Celtics. But I'll tell you this, though, Pep. The Celtics and the Nuggets, in my opinion, had the same issue of having to find fire and light it under themselves to play consecutively and consistently for 2 to 3 games. And if they don't do it against these guys, against the Pacers, who are an electric team who get up and down, they're going to get punched in the mouth first, and they're going to be playing from behind for this series. I can really see Indiana possibly taking 1 of 2 in Boston if these guys don't come out ready to play right off the rip. So I love that, not necessarily contrasting styles because they both shoot threes. We know Boston shoots threes. But in the sense of just pace, I think this is going to be a get up and down game, and that leans towards the Pacers. But when it comes down to who has the better just players on the floor, when it does slow down, it's hard to go against the Celtics. So
right, because the Celtics have the two. Not only do they have the best player on the floor, they have the best 2 players on the floor. Right? I mean, because there's nobody on the Pacers that's better than Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. And so that in and of itself should tell you that the Celtics should win this pretty handily. However, this is a team game, and sometimes things don't go as planned. There could be an injury, or it could be just that you're off. And if one of these guys, Tatum or Brown, are off, the Pacers can, and because like I said, the problem with what Boston will have is the Pacers can score. Cleveland really can't score, right? And Boston played Miami series before that, and they struggled because they didn't have Jimmy Butler, right? So they could hardly score. If you can't score, you're not gonna beat Boston. But if you can score, right, you got a great chance.
I agree.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And you mentioned the Boston Celtics. They beat the Cavaliers to move forward. I do want to give kudos to the Cavaliers. I thought that they made as far as they could. I like what they have, Pep. It's really hard to decipher, I think, what needs to happen next. You're hearing rumors that if the Cavaliers are able to secure an extension with Donovan Mitchell, that Darius Garland may ask for a trade. I wonder what that's about. But then the other part is, are you able to secure extension with Donovan Mitchell? Does he want to be a free agent? Does he want to move on? So it's just, I hope that Donovan Mitchell stays. I don't want Donovan Mitchell to fall in place of doing what everybody else is doing and go latch on to a team that's already built. Because I like what the Cavaliers have been doing. I think that the ascension is starting, and they have good young pieces. They were missing Jared Allen this series, who was vital to what they do defensively. So I like the pieces, Pep, and I hope they're just able to build off. And the piece that I guess maybe is movable, and I guess it depends on what you got coming back, is Darius Garland. The thing with Darius Garland for me is small guard, defensive liability. His pace I'm not a big fan of his pace either.
And plus he's a guy that needs the ball, right? And you already got Donovan Mitchell there, and then of course you have Karis LeVert when he comes in off the bench. So that's kind of tough. But I like Garland. I just hope Garland gets the mindset that, hey, I could be a very good complementary player to Donovan Mitchell, right? And realize what his role is, rather than I need to be the guy, right? Because I think Kyrie Irving, case in point, has learned that being the guy isn't all that's cracked up to be. And I think, when he was with LeBron, Kyrie Irving thought that, look, I'm the guy too, right? And he is. He really is. But then, then Kyrie went to where? He went
Boston.
to Brooklyn. Boston, right? He went to Boston. It didn't work there. Went to Brooklyn, played with KD. Again, he was kind of Superman Jr., right? But now he's learned, he's grown up somewhat. And so he's got to Dallas. And look, before he even got to Dallas, he knew Luka's the guy, right? He knew he wasn't coming there to be the guy to take over and be Kyrie. He could still be Kyrie, but he's got to know that Luka is the one that's got putting butter on that bread. And he realizes that. So that's the growth that he has gone through. And I think maybe Darius Garland might have to do the same thing. I'm hoping he stays in Cleveland because I've liked what they built. There's another what if Jared Allen wasn't hurt, right? Because he's a big rim protector, rebounder, and he can score inside. So they missed that, in the Boston series. Now, could it have extended the series? Yeah, possibly, but we don't know. So, but I think that if there's an opportunity for them to figure it out, keep the players that they have, and then see what happens next year.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit it right in the head by figuring it out. I think franchises have forgotten over these last 7 years of it takes more than 1 to 2 years of building a team. That's from coaching staff to roster to front office. And then when you finally get something that works, just because there's a little bit of a hiccup doesn't mean you just throw it all away and think you got to start over. I think I saw a rumor saying that they had to reevaluating JB Bickerstaff. I'm just like, why? He's a really good coach who's done his job every year, making this team a better team every year. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. Look, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Western Conference championship final. So don't go away. We'll be right back. This is LidLine Sports.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at RainierAvenueRadio.world.
You probably have questions about COVID vaccines. Here are some answers about how they're being made.
How are COVID vaccines being produced faster?
Usually, vaccine testing and production are separate steps. But because of the pandemic, vaccines are being developed on parallel tracks. So both steps are happening just at the same time.
How are the vaccines being tested?
Right now, several different COVID vaccines are in testing. Each go through multiple clinical trials with up to thousands of volunteers.
How do vaccines get approved?
Not all COVID vaccine versions will make it to the final stages of testing and approval. Produced vaccines that do not pass clinical trials will be destroyed. But for those that do pass, a team of medical experts will examine test results and possible side effects. If the vaccine is effective and safe, it gets approved and gets to you. Go to covidvaccinewa.org to learn more. A message from the state of Washington.
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice. UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
That's right.
Peace.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in. Phil Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Support for Rainier Avenue Radio comes from Cascade PBS, presenting season 2 of Out and Back with Allison Mariella Desir. Join Allison as she explores the Pacific Northwest with changemakers who are reclaiming space in the outdoors and creating opportunities for local BIPOC communities to engage with nature and find joy and healing. It's available now on Cascade PBS app and airing on KCTS 9 Thursdays at 8:50 p.m.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Welcome back, everybody. LidLine Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Live on May 29th, there's going to be a town hall on Chinatown and International District Light Rail. So it's right here on Rainier Avenue Radio at 6 p.m. May 29th. And of course, guess what? Result Park Jazz Radio is back tonight at 8 p.m. right after LidLine Sports. So do not turn that dial when you leave us. Stay right there for Result Park Jazz Radio on Rainier Avenue Radio .world. I want to say a shout out to Bill Walker Jr. and Rhonda Dorsey, of course. You know, she's on it. Cracks me up. I can't read most of the stuff on here because I'll be laughing. You know, I'll be in here laughing too much. So anyway, shout out to them and everybody listening. Want to thank everyone for listening, paying attention to us, because this is your favorite sports radio station, LidLine Sports, Rainier Avenue Radio .world. Oh, we were talking about the Eastern Conference Finals, and of course the semifinals with the Game 7s. So now let's switch over to the West Coast, the left coast, the best coast, as some would say. And we've got Dallas and Minnesota. Yeah.
You know what, Pep? I really think that this is going to be starting to become a trend in the Western Conference. It's going to be hard to sustain as what people like to say now, a dynasty over in the West, because there's so many good teams. And that was proven in this playoffs. Just like you said, we have Minnesota and the Dallas Mavericks. You just said it. Nobody would have thought that those two teams would have made the conference finals if you asked us in November, December, January, February.
Yeah,
so
you ain't going Yahtzee on that one.
No. And so we're here now, and just to start off with that great Minnesota wacky series in between the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, we just saw a team where almost nobody, well, the Denver Nuggets didn't win at home at all and still got to a Game 7. The Denver Nuggets was down 2-0, losing at home 2 games, and then shooting off 3 straight games. So, yeah, they won 1 game at home. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Shooting off 3 straight games, then losing 2 in a row. That is what you call what you want to see everything in a 7-game series. You saw stars shine in Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards. You saw the role players come alive in Jaden McDaniels. And I thought, in my opinion, Christian Braun had a really good series for the Denver Nuggets. What this just came down to, in my opinion, Pep, is just one team wanting it and just one team just not having it consistently throughout a whole series. I was a little worried to start when I saw the Nuggets went down 2-0. It wasn't because they were down 2-0. It was because how they lost. They got blown out twice at home. But when you have a player, though, like a Nikola Jokic, when he's on his A game, you're able to win some games. But what I saw, in my opinion, Pep, especially in Game 7, was a team that just lost interest once again at the wrong time. I don't know if you watched that game. The Denver Nuggets got up 20 points by the third quarter and were playing stifling defense.
Bro, I was already texting it's over.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
silly,
I thought so too.
rabbit me. You know,
You're talking about Denver playing at home, the reigning champions. Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray having a great game. And then the lights just turned off, and they never turned back on again. Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, started settling, shooting jumpers. Jamal Murray just couldn't find a bucket, and I give a lot of credit to Anthony Edwards in that sense. This is what I like in my superstar, Pep. Anthony Edwards couldn't throw a rock in the ocean to start the first half.
From the pier.
Most of the third quarter, too.
Right.
But he took it upon himself defensively to pick up somebody who was hot in Jamal Murray, and he was crickets after that.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I want in my superstar, Pep. But I also do want to give flowers. This is a Seattle radio show, and the kid may not be exactly from Seattle, from Federal Way, but Jaden McDaniels, man.
That's Seattle enough.
Exactly. The whole city supports him from Tacoma, Federal Way, down to the north. But Pep, I personally got to watch his journey starting from high school. A good friend of mine, Cartier French Tony, started training him in high school. I went to go watch him play on the summer circuit his junior year. And I remember telling my friend Cartier that, man, you got a good one. This guy's going to be really good. And I know he had some bumps and hiccups at UW, but he found a niche. And the one thing I always loved about Jaden McDaniels, he played hard. And I knew he always had defensive potential of being able to guard, but he showed the offensive flashes first. And then seeing the defensive flashes, he has been the unsung hero of these Minnesota Timberwolves, and the extension that he got was very rightfully deserved, and he's proving it in the playoffs. And those are the type of tools and pieces that championship teams need, and able to keep advancing. So I definitely want to give him flowers. But they showed up and they beat the Denver Nuggets. This wasn't about the Nuggets losing; they beat them.
Yes.
The Nuggets had every chance to win this series, and the Timberwolves said no. We're talking about a team who they came in the playoffs. Everybody thought the Suns was going to beat them, and now everybody thought the Nuggets was going to beat them. I'm done taking the opposite team of them going into the next round. They have proven that they are here and they are ready. We all made fun of the 2 big lineup when it came to Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. We didn't say it was going to work, and it kind of wasn't working. They were able to win games, but when it got to the playoffs, it was hard to keep Rudy Gobert on the floor because of his lapse offensively. But I think he's been doing a solid job, and I think a lot of people haven't talked about it. And I don't know, maybe I'll go look at his stats later. He's making free throws. So that's one thing that keeps it big on the floor, number one.
Yes.
But Karl Anthony Towns gets the game ball for Game 7. A lot of people got on him of not being consistent this whole playoffs. He took, when Anthony Edwards was playing bad, he took it upon himself to finally dominate. He's had little guys guarding him all series, and he took advantage of that. So I definitely want to give him flowers too. The Denver Nuggets, in my opinion, I've never seen a team be satisfied with only winning one championship. And I'll say that about Nikola Jokic too, the whole team. To even see Michael Malone, just how he handled losing this game. You can't win once and be the bullies in the talk, but then when you lose, you're now saying the media, you're getting asked stupid questions now all of a sudden. You can't be a sore loser and then a sore winner.
Right.
So I do think the Nuggets just minor moves, but I think hopefully what will happen is these guys are going to come back hungry. Because you see that you can't just coast through a regular season, which I think they did, and then think you can just turn it on come the playoffs. There's no team that can do that, in my opinion.
No.
So they did that, and they ran into a team that was just as good as them, and they just played at a higher level. What did you see about that series?
Well, my red flags for the Denver Nuggets started in the Lakers series because they were dominated basically the whole series, but had to make 2 Jamal Murray last-second shots to win. That was a red flag for me for that. So that tells me, for lack of a better term and being hood, they were caught slipping. It's just case in point. Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon.
You are the football guru, Saul.
They were both mediocre.
Not even mediocre, Pep. Not even.
Well,
mediocre.
I'm being nice, right?
Okay.
They were both mediocre, and one of those two had to show up. Look, because Jokic and Murray are going to show up. But one of those other two have got to bring it, and neither one of them did. And in Game 7, Porter missed everything he threw up, just about. And now look, somebody brought the point where, well, is he thinking about what's going on with his family? Now that could be, because look, we're human, right? And you could say that, this or that doesn't affect you. I'm a professional, blah, blah, blah. But look, man, I don't care if you got some turmoil going on in your family, and he does. That could have effect on you, on your game, everything. So I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm just giving it a possibility that might something like that could really hurt his play. So, but the Nuggets basically were caught slipping. And like I said, they needed Murray to bail them out 2 times against the Lakers, right? And he dang near bailed them out again yesterday, especially in the first half, right? But the Timberwolves, look, they've been the number 1 defense in the league all season. Okay, so that's not a fluke. And what happens in the playoffs? What's going to get you through? Defense. And look, Denver's good team. So of course, and they were defending champs. So of course, even though they knew they went up 2-0, they knew doggone well Denver was not gonna just lay down. They knew this, and they got home and found out that Denver was champs for a reason. And then, of course, when Denver went back and won Game 3, the Nuggets had to. the T-Wolves, they had to ratchet up. They said, "Look, man, we gotta fix things. We gotta fix our D," and they did. And they won by 45 in Game 6. That's you would think that would shake the other team, but you can't say that it did, because Denver had a 20-point lead in Game 7 and blew it all and lost. So red flag started early for Denver, and it just continued. You can't turn it on and turn it off in the NBA. You can't do it.
KCP's a free agent. Do you see major moves being made, or?
I do.
Okay.
I see. I don't know. I can't say major, but yes, they're going to have to do some tweaking. They're going to have to figure out what they got in Michael Porter Jr. If he's going to be, if he's who they want to stick with. And
Is he worth the money?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, they probably need somebody off the bench, right?
Agreed. Bench was no show besides
Yeah.
Christian Braun. Agreed.
So they're gonna have to do some tweaking. Because look, you want to be relevant, to be a champion. You can't just be a champion and then fade out. But the last 5 champions have done that.
Mm-hmm.
The last 5 champions since 2019 have won the finals. Next year, lost in the couldn't even get past the second round.
Good stat. Good stat, Pep.
None of them.
I know that. Good stat. Good stat.
Yeah, none of them.
Okay.
So hey, so whoever wins this year, it's going to be all right. See what happens next year, but we'll see. But man, this series between Minnesota and Dallas, I wouldn't just give the championship to Minnesota as far as the Western Conference, because Dallas has shown they've got when you look at the Dallas Mavericks and you like, okay, they got Kyrie and Luka, right?
Uh-huh.
And you say, well, look, they can go off. We just stop everybody else. But then, PJ Washington, he did nothing all game long. And in the fourth quarter, he shows up. But that's a pro. That's what a pro does. I'm not mad at that. Sometimes it takes a while, right? And then they got a big guy, Gafford, and they got Lively. So they've got tools. They've got guys they can go to, right? But as far as offensive, and then, of course, you still got Tim Hardaway Jr. Don't forget he's experienced. And so this might be, it all depends on matchups, right? Because if you have a favorable matchup, regardless of what's on paper, you could do some damage. I don't know how Mavericks and Timberwolves matched up in the regular season, because the Timberwolves did not match up well in Phoenix in the regular season. Phoenix swept them. But what happened in the playoffs? Phoenix got swept.
Yep.
And then as far as Denver, I think Denver and Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, I think Denver had the edge in the regular season. But what happened in the playoffs? So, it's going to be interesting to see. Luka and Kyrie going to have to be on. I think if they're going to win, they have to be on. They can't have one of them can't be mediocre and the other one tearing it up. It's not going to work. Both of them are going to have to just get down for real.
And you make a point, and I was really surprised that Dallas pulled out that series with how the lack of scoring Kyrie was able to bring in this series.
Right.
But just like you said, it was those pieces that they brought in being a fit defensively. They were able to slow down the OKC Thunder and play more of a half-court game than OKC kind of getting up and down.
OKC got lost in the lights. Number 1 seed.
That too.
They got the number 1 seed. They're young, and they just thought that they were going to go in there and roll over Dallas. And then when they found out that Dallas came to play, they was like, they didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And so, they got behind, and then, they just couldn't get it together.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be fine. They don't need to make major changes at all.
No.
They just got to look at this series, learn from it, and then regroup next year.
Yes. And
I like what Chet brings to the table, right? I mean, so they'll be fine. The fake Sonics should be fine, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For Seattle.
I have nothing negative to say about the OKC Thunder. I would never thought that they would be the number 1 seed.
But Jason Kidd, he outcoached OKC,
for sure.
And he gave him a lesson.
Yeah, and Dagnall, the coach, OKC Thunder coach, first year of him getting to the playoffs, so it's all learning lessons.
There you go.
Like I said, nothing bad to say about the OKC Thunder. They have they played well. They exceeded expectations. Just like you said, they bring back everybody. And that'll be a team, again, nobody would want to play in the playoffs next year. I think it'll be a top 3-4 team in the West again. But this back to that series, though, I go back. The X factor for the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion, once again, Jaden McDaniels. I believe that Luka Doncic will be guarding him, and vice versa. You got to make Luka work on both sides of the floor, especially defensively. Luka cannot rest on defense.
Right.
I'm not saying for Jaden to go out there and jack up shots, but be aggressive. In the games that the Timberwolves won, he was aggressive.
And plus, Luka's not 100%.
He's not.
That knee is, you got to make him work, like you said. You got to put him to the test.
And Jaden can't get over Fletcher. Luka's going to get his, hurt me or not. He's going to get his. But I think Jaden can be the X factor. And I think you said the name about what he did in the fourth quarter for the Mavericks. What's his name?
PJ Washington.
PJ Washington is going to be the X factor for me against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Going to be guarding Karl Anthony Towns. Once again, make him work defensively and offensively. He's going to get wide open shots. And I think he's really pivotal of being that glue guy, of guarding multiple positions, finding his spots offensively. Because I don't see Kyrie not being as aggressive as he was against. I see him being aggressive. I don't see him playing like how he was playing.
Yeah. Plus, he's going to want to go at Anthony.
Exactly. And we know the stars are going to be the stars in this series, in my opinion. So it's going to come down to who can play defense the best. And like I said, what role players are going to show up. That's been, in my opinion, the motto of this playoff. So that's tough, man. Even just hearing you talk about Dallas and what they bring, I'm still leaning that this is going to be a 7-game series. It's hard to go against Luka, but I the way Minnesota's playing defensively, I got them winning in 7, meeting the Boston Celtics.
Yep. Minnesota's the best defensive team in the NBA. And what wins championships? Defense. So, until Dallas beats them, I'm going to go with Minnesota because of the defense. And of course, Anthony Edwards is another, factor. He can have a bad. Now we know Anthony Edwards can not have a good shooting game, but still bring it. Defensively. And then, of course, we know that Karl Anthony Towns can bring it, right? And then, of course, a name we haven't even mentioned yet, and I love this guy, Mike Conley.
Yep. Big
superb.
Yes.
A superb point guard.
Yes.
He's a facilitator.
Point guard.
The guy is the engine, right?
Leader.
Yes. So, if unfortunately he's prone to injury. If he can stay healthy this whole series, Minnesota will be fine.
Agree.
If there's a nick or two from him or Karl Anthony or Rudy or whatever, it might be a problem. And I like the fact that Jaden McDaniels they seem to get more and more confident as the series progressed against the Nuggets.
Yes.
And he realized that, look, I'm not just here. I'm a factor too. Right. And he proved that. So and on the defense that he played. So I just hope that he doesn't get too crazy, right? And too aggressive because he's young, right?
Yeah.
So, as long as he can keep it in check, but still be consistent, he'll be fine.
Did you see the dunk that he attempted at the end of the game?
Yes. Yes, I did. Man. Yeah.
I love the kid. I mean, that's something that maybe had won. That could have went the whole other way. Thankfully, it didn't.
Right.
That was super funny to see him even attempt that.
Hey, he's young.
He's young, exactly.
He's young. So it's all good. I'm proud of him. And Minnesota. Look, man, Karl Anthony Towns said it. They've been losing for 20 years, right? So this is a good thing. Boston, Indiana, Dallas, Minnesota is a whole different Final Four. And I love it. Great. Denver, it was nice that they won last year because they had never won before. But now it's time to see somebody else that has never won before get their opportunity. So, I'm all for it,
Hey, Pep, how's your I just wanted to segue. I don't know if we have time.
Go ahead.
How's your Mariners doing?
Man, well, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, but that was expected. But today, down 4-1, going into the ninth inning, Mariners get 4 runs to take a 5-4 lead. Volpe strikes out, or flies out rather, and then Juan Soto hits a base hit. So you're thinking, here we go. Because who comes up next? Aaron Judge. Judge strikes out looking. So now you got 2 down, 1 on, and then you got Verdugo, who's been hot. He had 3 hits, and he hits one to Dylan Moore to end the inning and the game for the Mariners. So they win 5-4. So that's a good win for the Mariners because they got 4 in the Bronx, and getting that first one is really key. And it keeps them in first place. Texas is still struggling. The Astros are warming up, right? The Angels are still wishy-washy, and the A's are still wishy-washy. So, yeah, this is a very tough road trip, the longest road trip that the Mariners got all year, 10 games. So they're 2-2 so far, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a Yankee fan, but when the Yankees and the Mariners play, I kind of root for the road team, just to give them support. So when the Yankees come here, I definitely root for the Yankees, but I'm not upset that the Mariners beat my Yanks today.
Yeah. Ended their 7-game win streak.
Yeah. And look, the Mariners could be catching them at the right time. Because Minnesota, when the Mariners played Minnesota was hot.
Yep.
Since Mariners left town, Minnesota can't buy a game. So hopefully, you never know. For Mariner fans, it could be possible they might be catching them at the right time. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm content with the Mariners and what they're doing. I think they're playing pretty solid baseball. We know the starters have been lights out. But of course, the hitting is bottom 20 in pretty much almost every stat besides home run percentage. Go figure. So I'll be interested to see what's happening, where they're at by July. And I do think they have enough to compete for the AL West. Do they have enough to win a World Series? No, I don't think so. So
but a game like this against a team like that, because the Yankees were 33-15 at the time when you start playing. So, they're rolling over everybody just about. They're in first place. Baltimore's right on their heels. They're good too. Look, these two teams, the Orioles and the Yankees, are the 2 best teams in the American League, bar none. And it's, they lost 2 out of 3 of the Orioles. They got blew out the first game, but they came back and won the second game. And in the third game, Baltimore jumped all over Kirby. You know what? Baltimore's good, man. That's just the way it happens. And the Yankees are super good. But you know what? The Mariners came back in the 9th inning, and that's encouraging.
That was really good. I got back home and I watched that part of the game and seeing them be able to rally. And we know this is the team that can leave.
Yeah, 4 runs in the 9th. That's that's something, because look, when their pitching is good, the hitting usually isn't. And if the pitching fails, the hitting has got to come through, and they usually don't. But they did today. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Of course, like I said, they got 4 in the Bronx. So hopefully for Mariner fans, they can win tomorrow, at least guarantee a split.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want to do when you're on the road, especially on a 4-game series. You want at the bare minimum get a split.
JP Crawford should be coming back.
He is back. He came back. He pinch hit. Came in. So he pitch hit and took over shortstop. Dylan Moore moved over to second base. Rojas moved over to third. It was kind of like ring around the rosy right there in the final 2 innings. But and listen, I forgot to mention that Dominic Canzone,
man,
he had a home run in the 8th inning.
Yep.
So this guy, he just got back. Him and Rojas have been a great addition to the Mariners for Paul Sewald.
Agree.
So man, it's been great. Well, bro, we got to step aside. We're out of time. But look, it was great. There's no show next week, folks. Next week is a holiday, so we're going to take that time out. So we will see you in 2 weeks. Resolve Park Jazz Radio is back next. So don't go away. LidLine Sports, Rainier Avenue Radio .world.